If you're a higher ed professional, this video is for you. My name's Jen Scumaci. I'm with SME Strategy, and I'm going to share with you the back to school edition of strategic planning in higher education, which will hit on two key components for you to consider strategically during your fall semester. Now, if you were to look at strategic planning on a timeline across your entire academic year, it might look something like this. And in the fall semester, two of the things you can really focus on are pre planning and discovery. If you've already got a strategic plan, it's never a bad time to do some discovery work or to use some of what we offer in this video to be able to pressure test what you've got designed. And it's the time of year when everyone's back on campus, faculty, students, staff, everyone's coming back to a fresh start, a new year. Campus is just abuzz with energy, right? So this is the perfect time for a fresh start to think about some pre-planning foundational elements of strategic planning and to capture insights, inputs, and perspectives from folks while they're there back at it on campus for a new year. So what we've designed and what we're going to share in this video is number one, a 5-point checklist for discovery and pre-planning before you gear up for a strategic plan. And the second piece is stakeholder engagement. So let's go ahead and dig in. And let's start by looking at pre-planning and discovery. We've put together a 5-point checklist that include questions to help you gear up, so to speak. So things around purpose and readiness, scope and structure, inputs and context, timeline and resourcing, and success and accountabilities. Let's start with purpose and readiness. Why are you doing a strategic plan and why now? And by the way, if you've already got a strategic plan, it's never a bad time to come back to your why. To restate your why, and especially at the start of a new year, can really help keep people focused and aligned and on track with the purpose of your overall plan. Because a strategic plan for a strategic plan's sake is never good enough. There should always be something else you're getting out of the strategic planning process, whether it's alignment, campus wide buy in, or whether perhaps you're gearing up for accreditation. Strategic planning is a great opportunity to be able to help you do your self study. Maybe you're seeing some key leadership transitions. Embarking on strategic planning can really help in the continuity of the transition, or can help a new leader get campus wide buy in and really start your leadership journey on your college campus through a really collaborative process. And there are many other reasons why colleges and universities choose to embark on strategic planning. The important thing for you is to determine what that why is and what you're hoping to accomplish in this process. And asking those questions and answering those questions are a great start. It's also worth considering, is your campus ready for the change, right? A strategic plan implies that there will be change. You are going from wherever you are now and you're designing where you want to go and what the plan is to get you there. So, will that path, will that future destination be a big, bold transformation for your campus? If it is, what's your campus's appetite for a big, bold transformation? If you are more geared up for something that is smaller, more incremental improvements, strategic planning is great for that too. But the key is to get clear and be honest about why you're doing it, why now, what you want to get out of it, and how big is this change going to be. And make sure that you as a leader are sound in your responses to those questions. It's also worthwhile to look at previous strategic planning efforts. What's worked before? What hasn't worked before? What have you learned? What can you pull forward in terms of process that you know will be successful? And what's some of the stuff that you can choose to leave behind? Or what are some of the things that you know you want to pull forward that you just need to improve a little bit? But starting with these questions will help you identify what your purpose is and what your level of readiness is to embark on strategic planning. And again, these are also great questions to ask and answer if you're looking to pressure test a strategic plan. When we're looking at scope and structure, it's important to consider, what is the scope? Are we planning for a department or a division, or are we planning for the whole institution? And what is our ideal time frame? 3 years, 5 years, those are the typical time frames right now for strategic planning in higher education. And then it's important to consider some other logistics, such as who's going to lead and coordinate this effort. Will you have a strategic planning committee? Who's going to be on it? Or will this effort be undertaken by an intact team that already exists structurally in your org chart? Will you use an in-house facilitator or would you like to bring in someone external? And what decision-making processes will you use as you're working through this strategic planning? When we think about inputs and context, it's important to consider what data can you already get your hands on, what already exists that you can pull in to consider in your strategic planning. Maybe past strategic plans, maybe statistics on faculty, staff, or student engagement or satisfaction or things of that nature, right? And what data do you need to go out there and collect? And the bolded item here, the bolded question, what will stakeholder engagement look like? We're going to come back to that because we're going to talk about stakeholder engagement on the other end of this video. But what trends are shaping the higher ed landscape right now? What are the political, social, economic, technological, legal, environmental trends that you need to look around and understand as you are gearing up for strategic planning? Are there existing plans or current planning initiatives, your campus master plan, or any other sort of large scale strategic initiatives that this plan needs to align with? And how are you going to make those connections? And how are you going to connect your strategic plan to larger strategic processes like budgeting, assessment, operations, etc.? When we're talking about timelines and resources, what's your timeline look like? And you're going to want to think about building in components such as a kickoff, stakeholder engagement, strategic planning, communications, budgeting, implementation, etc. Knowing that it could take about a year on a college campus to design an effective strategic plan if you do stakeholder engagement in bulk, and that it would take approximately 3 years rolling off of that to implement the plan if it's a 3-year strategic plan, right? What internal calendars you need to alignment with, whether it's breaks or holidays, whether it's your fiscal year, whether it's your academic calendar, what are the key items that you need to consider from a timing perspective? And then resourcing. What is your time? What does your staffing look like? And what does your budget look like to be able to do strategic planning and implementation effectively? And how will you align your resources and allocate your resources effectively? It's really important to at least start thinking about this on the front end of a strategic planning initiative, even all the way thinking all the way through implementation and what it might cost you in terms of your time, efforts, staffing, budget, etc. And then lastly, success and accountability. What does a successful strategic planning process look like for you? What will you have at the end of the process that you don't have now? How will you ensure that final plan is actionable and won't just wind up sitting on a shelf somewhere collecting dust? And then ultimately, who has accountability for your plan? Who is responsible for plan approval? Is there a board of trustees or faculty, staff, student unions you need to engage, perhaps student senate? Who actually owns approval of the final plan? And who is going to be responsible for doing the work of the plan and coordinating the efforts of that work? There's a lot to think through, and these are some great questions to get you started. So let's come back to stakeholder engagement, which is one of the inputs that will be important for you to consider on the front end of strategic planning, but also throughout strategic planning and throughout implementation. And why? Well, stakeholder engagement is all about your campus voices, right? All of the various constituent groups that make up your campus, whether it's community members, faculty members, staff, students in various groups. I mean, really, the front part of strategic planning and stakeholder engagement is to map out who your stakeholder groups are. But the reason that we do stakeholder engagement is to make sure that all of those folks and all of their voices and perspectives are engaged in the process, because the more engaged they are in the process, the higher your buy-in will be. And they're going to help you think about things that you haven't thought about, right? So they're going to help you think through critical issues. They're going to identify opportunities, challenges, barriers. They're going to help you celebrate successes and understand what strengths you can lean into as you're doing strategic planning. So overall, stakeholder engagement just really makes for a more effective and impactful strategic plan. So the first part of stakeholder engagement is mapping and planning. Who are your key stakeholders? Who is this plan for? And who has interest in and influence within the realm of your strategy? And once you can ask and answer those questions and really get clear on who your stakeholders are, then the next question is, how are you going to meaningfully engage them throughout the strategic planning process as well as throughout implementation? So what we offer is a stakeholder mapping and planning tool where you really think about your stakeholders in terms of interest and influence. And the folks that you're going to want to make sure you have the most regular engagement with and you don't want to miss in your strategic planning efforts are going to be those folks who are high interest and high influence. The people who have the most impact within your plan and on your campus, and the people who will be most impacted by it, and also the people who have the highest stakes in terms of the direction of your college or university. So once you can really figure out who your constituent groups are, and then you can take a look at a quadrant like this where you can map their levels of interest and influence, you can really start to think about how will you engage them. And it might look something on, like a grid, something like this. So you're going to want to coordinate what activities you'll use to collect input. We offer services around stakeholder surveys, engagement sessions, sort of like town hall type meetings where we can work with your stakeholders and ask key questions to collect some important inputs that you can use in your strategic planning and implementation efforts. You're going to want to think about where that's going to happen. Would it happen in person? Would it happen virtually? Should it happen on campus? What is the exact location? And when? And for how long? What should the duration of this look like? And it's really important for you to do all of this within the context of the resources available to you. So outlining how you're going to resource stakeholder engagement. Again, are you going to conduct this internally? Are you going to use an external facilitator? What do your resources look like in terms of staff, people, time, money, all of that? And how will you really plan for how to effectively engage your stakeholders in your strategic planning process? So, in terms of next steps and things for you to take away from this video and try to implement on your campus this fall semester, the first thing you can do is use the 5 point checklist to begin your pre planning and discovery. And you can use that pre planning checklist to either gear up for strategic planning or to check a current strategic plan against some of those really key strategic questions. So, start there. Then think about your stakeholders. Begin mapping out what your stakeholder groups look like, and what your stakeholder engagement plan will look like. And if you do that this fall semester, we're going to invite you back in mid to late October for an interactive webinar where we would love to hear from you about what worked, what didn't work, what questions got you stuck, where did you get stuck in stakeholder engagement, and what successes did you have? What are some of the things you've learned along the way? And what questions do you still have? And if you bring those back to our webinar in October, we're going to do an interactive conversation virtually where we ask you about what has it all looked like for you, and we'll be able to provide you some key considerations and insights into how to continue moving forward. Also, in that webinar in October, we're going to talk about what winter break could look like as an opportunity for continued strategic work. And we'll talk about things such as how to synthesize what you've collected in stakeholder engagement, how to plan for communications, and how to think about logistics of your strategic planning. So there are other pre-planning logistics that our checklist did not cover because those are more thoughtful strategic questions. And in our October webinar, we're going to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of strategic planning. So you can also, if you want to get a ton of information all in one felt swoop, visit our brand new higher education strategic planning website. It is designed for higher ed professionals, and it's everything you need to know about strategic planning, as well as how you can work with us at SME Strategy to align your campus for maximum impact. So we hope you'll check that out. You can visit us at www.smestrategy.net. And you can also reach out to us via email info@smestrategy.net, and I hope you will. We are so excited to be here as a resource for the higher ed community. And if there's anything you need, any questions you can you need answered, we are here for you. You can also fill out a contact form if you'd like to set up a free consultation with us. We're always happy to talk with you anytime to help you move forward in your strategic planning efforts so that your campus can be as aligned and successful as possible. Thanks so much for watching today. We look forward to seeing you next time.